Awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. I just want to start off by introducing myself. I'm Victoria Gudino, and I'm the Communications Manager at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. LPIC is a nonpartisan, nonprofit, independent source of data, research, and information for policymakers and stakeholders on issues related to early children education for young children aged birth through 4 in Louisiana. This event is part of Louisiana's Early Ed Month, a month-long series of events to raise awareness about the critical issues surrounding early childhood education that impact children, parents, and caregivers in our state. Today's training is co-hosted by LPIC and Save the Children Action Network, two statewide organizations that are committed and diligently working for the betterment of Louisiana and its children. And today we are all thrilled to bring you together to learn how to be the best advocate for your children and the children of our state. I am delighted to introduce Crystal Ellis of Save the Children Action Network, our host for this evening. Save the Children Action Network is a political advocacy arm of Save the Children. They work across the U.S. to ensure that our elected leaders give top priority to issues critical to children's lives and their futures. And so without further ado, Crystal, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Victoria. Good evening, everyone. As Victoria stated, I am Crystal Ellis. I am the Louisiana State Manager for Save the Children Action Network, and I am joined today by two of my volunteer leaders, Dafnee Chatman and Tia Fields. Again, thank you, Vanessa, for translation. Victoria told you a little bit about what SCAN does. We are a grassroots activism organization that works to engage candidates and legislators and community members throughout the state to advance policy on behalf of young children and families. Our volunteers consist of parents, caregivers, educators, and students across the country advocating to make a difference in the lives of kids. Here in Louisiana, we have multiple constituency programs to include our family engagement program, which is located where our U.S. programs exist in St. Landry, Jeff Davis, and Evangeline parishes. In addition to that, we have a student club on Southern University's campus here in Baton Rouge. And then we have community action teams currently existing in the Baton Rouge area and in northern Louisiana, primarily Mansfield, Louisiana.
Will begin during the legislative session. Our Capitol correspondent, Alexis Kearney, has details on how this budget could impact you.
Michael, experts say this budget was frankly boring.
I'm not sure who's unmuted at this moment, but if you aren't speaking, would you mind muting yourself? So my first question for you this evening is, what is advocacy? If all of you would take a moment to drop in the chat your definition of advocacy. You know, well, I see supporting for a cause. Speaking up and out for others. Using your networks and contacts to bring awareness to an important issue. Helping a cause or person to achieve a desired goal. Being an ally. Advocacy looks like supporting causes that you believe in and fighting for it. As you continue to drop your definition in the chat, we'll talk about what advocacy is for the sake of advancing policy. Advocacy is taking action to create change. So let me preface this training by sharing that I myself am a parent. I am a mother and stepmother to 8 children. And it took me some time to learn the difference between complaint and advocacy. And that difference is taking action. What can I do to advocate? Let's take another moment, and aside from explaining what advocacy is, if you would take a second to drop into the chat what you as a parent can do to advocate. You're on it, Noelle. Educate others about the issues. That's right, Megan. Speak on things that are not happening that should be. Be the voice for your child. Pay attention to the needs of my child and my community. Be a part of solutions for change or causes you believe in. Volunteer time, resources for your children's needs and futures. Make sure that groups that are in the room are included in the creation of the solutions, that aren't in the room are included in the creation of these solutions. There's a saying, nothing about us without us. Can we move to the next slide, Victoria? So for the sake of tonight's presentation, what you can do to advocate is guided by your lived experiences. Parents and caregivers can advocate for increased investment to expand access to early childhood education. And where do you start? I think I saw this already in the chat. But where you start is initially to get informed. So you can all pat yourselves on the back for joining this evening's training, because this is where it starts. You become knowledgeable on the issues that you're advocating for. You volunteer. You volunteer with organizations such as Save the Children Action Network and Louisiana Policy Institute for children, who do work through the Ready Louisiana Coalition and the Go Far Coalition. We'll talk more about coalitions in a moment. And I'm going to say, excuse me for any background noise, because again, I'm a mother of 8 and life doesn't stop on my end because I'm hosting a training in the evening. Advocacy through campaigns. Campaigns are organized movements with coordinated activities designed to influence targets and achieve policy goals. These can be federal campaigns, state and electoral campaigns, even local campaigns when you're dealing with your school board or your metro council. But ultimately, it's organized movements with coordinated activities designed to influence targets and achieve policy goals. So in relation to early education, can you now drop into the chat who you believe would be a target for early education advocacy? Parents, lawmakers, schools, parents, pediatricians, business and nonprofit community leaders. So when you're advocating and you're selecting a target is going to be somebody that possesses authority to make decisions. how you achieve those policy goals or enlisting the help of a number of the other entities that we've already listed in the chat, such as parents, providers. But decision-making authority makes someone a target. Can everyone access the reaction button? If you can put any sort of reaction to indicate that you've already taken action in the past to advocate on behalf of early childhood education. Let's level set and see where everyone is. Yes, Macretia, state representative. Noelle, can you come off mute for a moment and tell us a backstory on how you've advocated on behalf of early childhood education?
I figured I'd get picked because everybody's in there on the side. Well, when I think of early childhood education, I'm thinking of intervention. Yeah, I have moved from one place to another in order to get for my son. He's 4.5, nonverbal autism with epilepsy, and it's we had to go to a different community. I've helped other parents who were trying to figure out what was next for them, and I've had people refer to them to me. And I think that, and this may be off course, but for me, advocating, what I've done so far is helping other parents find the way or find the path, and not do the work for them, but help them along their own journey. Um, and take what course it is within whatever parish they are a part of. So, and I could be, like I said, off base, but that's what I
My
think.
secondary question would be, has your advocacy affected policy change?
No, I'm not at that level yet.
You're
But
right.
I would like to be at that level at some point. That right there is actual goal.
We are working towards it. Is anyone else interested in sharing their background on early ed advocacy? I am not opposed to picking someone. Morgan, can you share with us any actions you've taken to advocate on behalf of early education?
Sorry, I had to make sure I was the only Morgan on the call. Had to double check real quick. Okay, so I wouldn't say that I have had any real training in it. I am an advocate naturally as a parent. I do work at a nonprofit where we have a education to career coalition where I'm often the voice on how things affect those with non-school age children. But that's just my input into it as a staff member. I have personally protested in the legislature by sitting in the hallway with my 3 children last year when they were considering the deeper cuts that they were going to take to CCAP. But that's it. I don't have any formal training. I'm hoping to gain some.
Okay, so I have a question for you. As far as you said you've protested in the Capitol, what does that look like for you?
For me, it was taking up space and being an inconvenience with my children while the business of the legislature was trying to go on. I wanted them to feel the impact of children not being able to be in quality care and therefore having to be in the rest of the public space.
So inconveniencing legislators?
Yeah. Sitting in the hallway also gets them to talk to you
You're right.
because you're there. They can't avoid you.
So taking up space.
Taking up space.
Taking up space. Maquisha, would you mind sharing with us the advocacy actions that you've taken in the past?
Have y'all meets or in Zoom or I'm not sure how.
I'm not sure who that was. Let's go to Christy Gilmore. Christy, can you share with us some of your past advocacy actions?
Yes, sure. I have both made public statements at commission hearings. I have also participated in collaboration with other, heavy hitters in their press conferences and made public statements there. I've coordinated with other childcare owners and directors and helped them prepare their public statements. So pretty much any invitation I get, I am trying to get in there.
And Christy, has your advocacy actions led to policy change?
Yes, actually, one that I did not mention, it was kind of like backdoorsy, but there were two recommendations from our work group that we had as it pertained to some bulletins, and they took that into consideration and changed them. So yeah.
Great. Toria, can we move on to the next slide, please? So we're going to break down different ways that you can advocate for policy change. And to begin, we're going to start with grassroots organizing. So grassroots comes in different ways. First, by community awareness campaigns, and there's a number of ways to do that. For us at SCAN, it looks like participating in local events to educate the public about the importance of early education and how to get involved. That's tabling local events, that's showing up to different community events and passing out flyers. That may look like partnering with local early ed facilities and coming in to do educational trainings with their faculty, staff, and family members. Coalition building, such as what we do with Go Far and Ready Louisiana. That's partnering with local organizations, educators, and businesses to form a united front that can push for policy change. Morgan spoke about going to the Capitol and taking up space, but there is power in numbers. So when you're building coalition, you're building capacity and people power. Parent and caregiver mobilization, organizing other parents, caregivers, and community members to get involved with early education advocacy. So I am a firm believer at SCAN that we do like a +2 for everything that we organize. So if we're having an upcoming event and I invite my volunteer leaders, my expectation is that they invite 2 people and those 2 people subsequently invite 2 more. So it's recruiting other parents, caregivers, and community members to get involved with advocacy. Another huge aspect of policy advancement is communications. Targeted media outreach. So you're engaging with local journalists by writing op-eds. Who here has ever written a letter to the editor? You can put a reaction in the chat or a thumbs up. I don't see any unless I've missed them. But what I will say is, if we haven't written a letter to the editor, you guys have just told me what our next training is, because a letter to the editor is a really good way to engage your community on the issues that are important to you. So you write into your local media, for example, the Advocate, and you write the editor and you let them know what's important to you, why it's important to you, and what actions you feel should be taken in support of that cause. Social media, amplifying content from trusted sources. So let's take a second in the chat and I need you to drop a trusted source for early education policy in the chat. And I see some of those orgs on this call, so I expect you to name yourself so that people know how to connect with you. LPIC, Louisiana Policy Institute for Children, Go Far Louisiana, Save the Children Action Network. What is LCWTA? Dr. Vicky, can you tell us what that stands for?
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. All right. LCWTA is Louisiana Child Welfare Training Association. It's in conjunction with Southeastern Louisiana University and the Louisiana Department of Children and Family Services. They also are interconnected with the Children's Institute as well, Louisiana Children's Institute. So it actually they advocate and provide training for individuals who are caretakers of kids in need of services, as well as foster parents or anybody such as educators that are, looking for ways to get additional information in hopes of pushing towards a goal of servicing children and their families, and as well as advocating on their behalf.
And does the org share content on social media?
Yes, they do. They do.
Community Foundation of North Louisiana and Cato Smart State Ready Start Network. Does anyone want to share information on that? On those two orgs?
Yes, I'm Carla Burgos. I'm the Director of Special Initiatives at the Community Foundation. And the early childhood education, we have an initiative at the Community Foundation. One of the things that we are really working to do is to continue to have those state matches where we are providing scholarships, but through the state match, we've raised, I think, like $25 million. But one of the things we do, we really don't, we can't lobby, but we do make legislators and policymakers aware of the need for early childhood education. So we have held some meetings and things like that where we're educating not only legislators, but local government, parents, other caregivers. So that's one of the things we do. We really want to start to embrace the business community more so to educate them more on why they should be giving more into early childhood education and how it would improve workforce. The other thing that I sit in on the Cat Already Start network, and it's a network of the early childhood education centers, and we basically sit and we identify what are the challenges or barriers, and this advisory committee works in our area to see if we can resolve them or address those issues. It might be funding related, it might be training educators in the classroom, things of that nature.
And you're sharing content on social media that we can follow as well?
Yes, they're the Cattle Smart Start is online. That content is online. And then the Community Foundation also.
Thank
So you can
you.
find information from both of those.
Ms. Deborah, would you like to share about the Children's Coalition for Northeast Louisiana?
Sure. Children's Coalition for Northeast Louisiana is a nonprofit in Northeast Louisiana. We serve 14 parishes. One of the pillars of our organization is our early childhood department, our early childhood team, and where I am the Ready Start coordinator. But we also advocate for our our youngest learners. We participated. Actually, we were the host this month for Early Ed Day, along with LPIC at Louisiana Tech. Last year, we participated in Early Ed Month at the Capitol, along with some of our other partners throughout the state, which was a great experience. And a part of the work that I do is our parent leader advocates that came out of our Ready Start Family Engagement funding. And these young ladies are on, and they've been trained in parent advocacy to work. It's still a learning process, but they were with us on the trip to the Capitol to see how everything works. We even got to go that day to the chamber to visit with our representatives, and so it was an experience. But I'm also an ex Head Start family service worker, so I've been doing this and working with parents to advocate for parents throughout our communities for quite a bit.
And
But
Miss Deborah, are you guys
that's
sharing information on social media?
yes, ma'am, we do. And you can find us at Children's Coalition for Northeast Louisiana.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Another means of communication is what I feel parents do best. And it's public speaking. And I'll be the first to admit, like, I'm horrible at public speaking. I sometimes cry. But nobody can compete with a parent who is sharing their real life story. I think it's often overlooked that parents are the subject matter expert when it comes to early childhood. We are the ones raising young children and going through the process of accessing early education and what that looks like. And so telling your story and your experience is very powerful. I believe that we have, I don't know if I see her any longer, but we had a legislator on the call when it started. And if you're here, can you come off mute, please? I don't want to call out no names. But if not, I can say that when you're visiting the Capitol and you're speaking to legislators, it's not only important to know data and why, to know the numbers, but to also be able to put a personalized experience and attach it to it. I know for me, I spent the majority of my adult life as a single parent, and I put three children through early childhood education programs, and I can speak to the exorbitant cost that I was challenged with as a single mother, and having two in childcare at the same time, and being able to, at the time living in the lower ninth ward of New Orleans, being able to access quality childcare in close proximity to me, often challenged with barriers of transportation. Is there anyone else that has ever shared their personal story with a decision maker? And I'm not speaking to Tia or Dafnee because they're going to come off mute later and tell us more.
This is Venicia. I've never shared a personal story personally, but I've witnessed when we had with at the United Way. They had the tour with EBR Ready Start at Crestworth, and it was a young lady, a parent, and I saw and felt the impact of that and how it moved everyone. So yes, I do agree with you that it's very important adding a small midget of some personal list to it. So yes, ma'am.
When I train my advocates through Save the Children Action Network, I always say to them, when you have an opportunity to speak in front of a legislator or a decision maker, the personal story is what they're going to remember, right? Because they get data from people all day, every day, and you can always leave behind a document that gives them the data. But it's your compelling story that's going to captivate them, that's going to capture their attention and make them want to learn more about what you're speaking on. We can move to the next slide, Victoria. Another key element of advancing policy is elections, because it's important to make sure that we are engaging candidates to find out if they really care about children. You would be surprised how many people run for office and don't. And working to elect candidates that will work in the best interest of children in early childhood education. So the ways that you can engage elections, first and foremost, which I feel is the most important, is voter outreach and education, because we don't elect people unless people actually go to the polls. So informing parents, caregivers, and community members about the importance of voting for candidates that'll champion early educations is key. But then, and y'all check the photo out because it's a really big deal to me, but engaging candidates. And we call that bird dogging. And bird dogging is when you ask questions to get candidates on record. So with Save the Children Action Network, we attend town halls or meetings where candidates are giving their spiel on why they should be elected. And we ask questions focused on early childhood education so that we can get a response and hold them accountable to their response. So we'll often go in, ask a question, they'll answer, we'll capture a photo that says, I was here, because we all know it didn't happen if you don't have a picture. We can post it to social media, recapping what our experience was and tagging them. And if they are really about what they say they're about, they'll either share it or respond. So we have them on record for what their stance is for early education. We are a C4 organization, so we have some capabilities that a regular advocacy organization doesn't have, and one of that is endorsements. And the way that we endorse is we support candidates that support kids. So we, aside from bird dogging, we send out questionnaires so we can capture what their responses are to our varying issues. And then we can select amongst candidates which ones we feel would champion our issues and support them in a number of ways. And then the fourth is engaging lawmakers. I know I keep saying that all of these are my most important, but this one is really important too, because whoever is seated in this moment has the power. And those are relationships that you have to build. So the way that you build relationships with lawmakers or engage lawmakers are attending legislative meetings and advocacy days. We have, if you would please, Victoria, drop the early ed day at the Capitol in the chat, please. I believe it's May 20th. And meeting with legislators, you get an opportunity to speak directly to the elected official that's making the decision. And we call that lobbying. Sending messages to lawmakers. This can be done a number of ways. Some of the ways that we utilize at SCAN are sending postcards, emailing, making phone calls, one clicks. We all love a good one click. And if you don't know what a one click is, a one click is when advocacy organizations make it really easy for you. So they have these pre-drafted text messages or emails, and then they make it accessible to the general public through clicking on a button. So
have Medicaid and you live in Louisiana.
We send these out via email, and let me pause because I know a lot of us often get overwhelmed with the influx of emails that we receive or text messages that we receive from varying advocacy organizations. But don't overlook those, because we make it easy for you. As parents, we can't always show up to the Capitol and we can't attend every meeting. But just as easy as it is for me to sit down and eat dinner, and in between bites, I can click on a button and send a message to a legislator because an advocacy organization made it easy for me. So you'll find those in emails, you'll find those in text messages, you'll find those on social media. And when you come across them, we've done the work for you. You click on it, you take a second to personalize it, and you hit send. And it's really impactful when a lawmaker can get 1,500 messages saying, we need you to invest in early education. Another opportunity to engage lawmakers is through public testimony. And so, Morgan, you talked about being at the Capitol, but a lot of people, when you're at the Capitol, you also are testifying before legislators. That photo is a picture of my son, who was 12 years old at the time and testified in Senate Finance for early ed investment. And he was able to give his experience about what these programs have done for him and his family and how it significantly changed the trajectory of his life through having access, right? Because not only was it making him kindergarten ready by having access to an early ed program, it was allowing his mom, who was a single mother at the time, to be able to work and contribute to the economy. And I went from a struggling single mother, which I am not afraid to admit, to thriving because I had a trusted place to bring my children and know that they were being nurtured and that they were being educated. Has anyone ever given public testimony? Drop a reaction in the chat if you have. I want to talk about that for a second. Carla, tell us all about it.
Well, it wasn't in this capacity. Prior to coming into this role, I was the director of CASA on a state level. So my role was to give testimony at the legislative policy as it relates to children of abuse and neglect, and to also train advocates to do the same thing. So that was my experience for about 4 years.
Thank you. And again, connecting with advocacy organizations gives you the opportunity to take advantage of trainings. We train you to testify. You don't have to go in blind. I remember my first time ever testifying at the legislature and how nervous I was and feeling like I didn't say all the right things, but your message will resonate with somebody. So let's talk about our SCAN volunteer leaders, because we have 2 on the call. Our Save the Children Action Network volunteer leader program strives to provide advanced training and advocacy opportunities to our most committed volunteers. In 10 states across the US, our volunteer leaders work together as part of community action teams to educate and inspire action among fellow community members and elected leaders. So we have in Louisiana through SCAN a small but very mighty group of volunteer leaders. We currently sit at 5, and I'm getting ready to introduce 2 of them to you. Dafnee Chatman and Tia Fields, if you would come off mute and tell everyone a little bit about your experience advocating with Save the Children Action Network in partnership with the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. Dafnee, you can go first.
Good evening, everyone. I am so glad to see all of you on here on tonight. I am Dafnee Chatman. I am the state volunteer lead for Save the Children Action Network. I have been a volunteer with SCAN for 3 years. I want to say being the policy council president pushed me here, and it has been an amazing journey. I have had the opportunity to travel from my little hometown of Ville Platte, Louisiana, where I reside with my 4 children, all the way to lobbying at the nation's capital. I have also been given the opportunity to sit in an interview about my life and what I've been through with PBS's News Hour, and share my own personal lived experience and use my voice to advocate for those who have been in similar situations. And I lend a very big hand to SCAN for opening me up to those opportunities and putting me in the spotlight, so to speak. And I would not turn back even if I tried. See ya.
Well, hey everybody. Good evening. I'm Tia Fields. I am a co-lead here in the Baton Rouge region area. I'm excited because actually this month makes my 1-year anniversary with volunteering with SCAN. I first engaged the organization through some personal challenges that I was having during my last pregnancy, where I was denied certain things, and it ended up making it hard for me to get childcare for my youngest child. And so through needing community resources, I was pointed towards SCAN and got involved with their advocacy through a summit. At first, I really didn't know what to expect, because beforehand, like I was just like a solo advocacy person. Like whatever was important to me in my life, I would show up at certain committee meetings or Metro Council meetings and just speaking by myself. But going through training and being involved with community taught me the power of the voice. Like we can't go anywhere alone. And it made a direct impact in the way that I learned how to advocate by being in community with parents who feel and think the same way that I do about our children. I don't know about anybody else. I'm a mother of 3, but I think every child that I ever come across with is my child. So the same things that I want for my children, which is, you know, great quality education, balanced and healthy meals, an opportunity to thrive at their highest level. I believe every other parent wants that too. And it takes a great amount of courage to be critiqued when it comes to engaging lawmakers. but it's really an effective tool. For me, recently, I was able to sit with Bill Cassidy's office here in Baton Rouge as well as in DC. Just recently, actually in November, we all traveled to DC, and it was my first time actually seeing the actual interaction with that level of Congress. Dafnee did an amazing job telling her story. And that was something that I was like, hey, you know, I really could use some more training on storytelling. How can I get comfortable about sharing what I have been through vocally? Letters to the editors are really my deal because I have not yet perfected being so vulnerable vocally, but I can write a bad letter. But so yeah, it's been a great experience, and I thank you guys for tuning in tonight.
Thank you, Dafnee and Tia, for sharing your experiences. So we are going to get into a Q&A, questions and answers. But before we do that, we are going to take a moment to drop one of those pesky little one clicks in the chat so that we all can collectively take action in this moment and make a significant impact. Victoria, would you mind dropping that in the chat, please? Oh, you already have. So if everyone will click on this link, and we'll give you a couple of minutes because you do have the option to personalize and send a message to your federal legislators. And then comment done once you're finished, please.
While we're doing that, Crystal, if I may, I just want to say um, the one clicks were always my go-to in the beginning as a beginning advocate, because although I'm not saying a word, it has my name on it. It has where I live. And it goes directly to the offices of my legislatures. So I may not say a word, and it may not specifically be my testimony in those words, but it's bringing an entire group of people's issue to the forefront in just one click. So although it may seem minimal, it has a great impact. If you get enough emails, you're gonna have to respond.
And it's also the one band, one sound concept, right? Because it's consistent messaging. So even though we personalize it to add a few of our own personal touches, it's sending the same message from a number of people saying this is what we need, and that's impactful. We'll give folks a couple more minutes to finish up. In addition to that, I always say, because as a working mom, I'm so busy. And again, you can't always show up to meetings. You can't always show up to the Capitol. We'd love to have you in both spaces, but start where you can, do what you can, how you can. And a one click is the easiest opportunity for you to engage legislators. This you can do from the comfort of your home. You can do it from your office. You can do it in your car. I don't suggest you do it in your car if you're driving, but you can do it at red light if you so choose to. But it only takes a second, and then you go on about your day. Do we need a few more minutes? Okay, as people are finishing up, we are going to head into questions and answers. This is a very general baseline for advocacy. There are a number of ways that we can train you on the intricate details of this, of advocacy strategy and tactics. But if you have any questions in this moment, we have time for you to ask, and we can be as specific as you need us to. So feel free to come off mute and ask any questions that you may have. For myself, for Victoria, for Tia, or for Dafnee. And or comments.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
We can. Can you tell us who's speaking, please?
I'm Valencia Wallace with Project SOAR. So I just have a comment, like hearing from you guys and Dafnee and Tia, like I really enjoyed everything you guys said. So I definitely am looking to get more involved and finding out more about you guys is you know, your organization and how I could learn to better advocate. I am a former foster parent and former CASA. So I'm now an adoptive parent of 4 almost 5-year-olds. So my biological child is almost 30. So, you know, I have more sense now, and I see you know, more issues in the system when it comes to early childhood that, you know, if you really don't know until you get in there. So I'm really excited. I've really enjoyed everything that you guys have said. So I just want to give y'all, you know, kudos for that. Like, it piqued my interest. I have notes I'm taking, and yeah, that's my 5 cents.
We appreciate you, and we will circulate the slide deck after this training for you. But I've also dropped the volunteer interest form in the chat. So if you're interested in getting involved with Save the Children Action Network, please fill it out at your convenience, and we'd love to get you to accompany you on your journey as you advocate for early education in children and families. I have everyone's contact information through registration, but I also sent out a reminder email this afternoon, and on that email should be my booking link. So if you want a one-on-one to get more information about the organization or have any additional questions about advocacy, please don't hesitate to reach out. Did anyone else have any questions or comments? You can even critique us.
I can jump in and say that those of you who are considering advocacy, definitely come on over and fill out that interest form. If you are nervous about it, you are trained to do it. Save the Children Action Network has an outstanding training course and training opportunities. Monthly, we are on webinars getting information, whether that be on legislation, on how to talk to your legislators when they're in your area. That will teach you how to write a letter to the editor, like Tia loves to do. We'll teach you to talk like me if you want to do that. We help you organize your story and orchestrate it to where it can resonate with your lawmakers. Your story can create a change. It does create change, and we can certainly help you with that. So don't be nervous about it. We have a state summit where we're active in. We travel to Washington, D.C., and we have our national advocacy summit where we all come together collectively and put our heads and our minds together to come up with the best strategies for each one of us in our areas.
And there's only so much that you can learn in an hour. Tia will probably attest to this the best, that I love a good strategy chart. And if you've never seen this strategy chart, I would love to be the first person to show it to you. But we get really deep into specifics on strategy and tactics, and we are happy to train you online. I am happy to train you in your community. If you want to get a group together, I will travel to you anywhere in the state. So if you have questions on advocacy, please don't hesitate. Just reach out. We'd love to help you. We are all here on behalf of children and families. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, is it over? I'm sorry.
No,
Because I
we
did
have a few more minutes.
Okay, I did want to add a statement that I didn't get to say while I was sharing. One of the other things that I really love is that we build nonpartisan partnership support. So I think for me, like when we're talking about children, it can't just be about one, it has to be about all. And it doesn't matter, like, you know, what your political affiliation is. We should all care about children. And there has been times where my mind has been shifted and challenged by someone that I would normally not engage with because of what they believe in. But the way that the data is presented to us, it prepares you to speak on any topic relating to children competently and giving data, you know, like data, giving the numbers, what really matters. And so, yeah, it's a great opportunity to be trained as an advocate. It's a wonderful system plugged in to expand your network depending on what your interest is when it comes to advocacy for children. And I really just hope that you guys join us on our next monthly meeting.
One last plug is this strategy chart that I love so dearly. But once you learn the strategy chart, it can be applied to any issue that you are advocating on behalf of. We would love for you to use it on early education, but if you have additional passions, it transcends. So I'm happy to email me. I will send it to you and we can book a one-on-one, and I'm happy to explain it.
How can we find out about when are your monthly meetings?
I will drop the link for our next one, which is scheduled for the 25th.
News colleagues, pre-order your copy
Just a moment.
Books.com.
AOC is
And
instructing.
so with SCAN, we advocate in the state for early ed and food security. But our next upcoming one is focused on how to tailor your message to legislators to emphasize what their priorities are. When you're advocating, something super important is knowing how to speak the language of your audience, right? So you have to be able, especially when you're nonpartisan, to be able to speak to conservatives, fiscal conservatives who may not want to advance social services. But if you talk to them about what matters, for instance, instead of saying, I need childcare, you say, I need to work, because that's what's going to hit them. That's what they want to hear, right? And access to early education impacts so many things. So this upcoming training should be really good because it's going to teach you how to tailor your message to your local legislators. I put the link in the chat. I'll give you a couple minutes if you want to register for that, or if you want to copy it. And then from a state perspective, if we kind of base like what our trainings are for the state on what's going on in the state, or what our volunteers or advocates want to learn. So it could be a training on how to write a letter to the editor. It can be a training on community engagement. It can be a training on government relations and how to contact your federal legislators. We do media training. So I have someone that comes in from our organization to teach you on how to engage the media. If you're not used to being interviewed, we will train you to be interviewed, and a number of other things.
Okay.
Christy, I'll probably send everything out tomorrow, if I'm being honest, because I'm a mama and I'm trying to get back to these kids, but you will get a follow-up email. So with that, thank you, Vanessa, for translation this evening. We appreciate you so much. Thank you, Victoria and LPIC, for welcoming Save the Children Advocacy Network into your network. And thank you to all who joined the call. We really appreciate you for taking time to learn how to advocate on behalf of children and families.